Biorhythmic pyramids. Aerial view of the ancient Sanskrit pyramids of Giza, Egypt, positioned along the sacred Nile River Valley. A defining aspect of ancient advanced human civilization is evident on every inhabited continent of the planet: massive piles of crystalline stone. This enigmatic tradition can now be understood for its most deeply penetrating purpose that has evaded modern comprehension. This monumental consciousness entrainment technology reaches its pinnacle in the megalithic psychoacoustic architecture of the pyramids of Giza, Egypt. The plateau and monument was referred to in antiquity by the ancient Coptic name Rostau or Rosecross, the meaning of which becomes apparent in the mapping of cymatic patterns formed of infrasound standing waves transduced by the limestone and quartz crystalline structures. The Giza Pyramid Complex is an ancient solid-state psychoacoustical technology piezoelectrically transducing Schumann resonance, ultra-low frequency waves from 20 Hz to 0.5 Hz that emanate from the magnetic North Pole. These frequencies correspond to the alpha, theta, and delta brainwaves, entraining human consciousness into meditative states and oneness with the Earth. The Giza Pyramid Complex has lasted for millennia as the most enigmatic monument of humanity, 3 man-made mountains of stone. An understanding of the construction methods of the pyramid builders has eluded modern research, and the full purpose for the mathematical precision of the architecture has remained a deep mystery. Egyptologists have proposed that the pyramids were constructed as tombs for pharaohs, the burial riches and artifacts having been looted long ago. While the Egyptian afterlife beliefs are well documented, the pyramids lack all of the characteristic tomb features found in confirmed pharaonic burials, including the lethal paints mixed with poisonous fungi used in the sealed tombs that gave rise to speculation about the mummy's curse after the death of several inquisitors. The acoustic effects experienced by the living human body in the Great Pyramid's chambers are so powerful that it is unlikely to have been used as a tomb for the dead. The upper chamber's granite box is an astounding resonator designed for biorhythmic entrainment of the human mind and body. These and many other aspects of the Giza enigma suggest that the Orion pyramids predate Egyptian culture. If not the Egyptians, what unknown ancient culture is responsible for the construction of those pyramids? The only key to deciphering this mystery is mathematics, and the equations have all been left to humanity in the limestone and granite blocks of the monuments themselves, inviting us to solve the four-dimensional puzzle of the pyramids. 21st century physics has made paradigm-shifting breakthroughs in the fields of quantum biology and nonlinear acoustics to inform a new understanding of the design function, nonlinear mathematical symbolism, and harmonic tradition left to humanity in monumental stone. The hypothesis given herein provides a complex quantitative model of the global pattern of magnetic resonance transduced by the Giza Pyramid Complex from the natural planetary field of ultra-low frequency resonance. Based upon the golden section or phi geometry evident in the pyramidal design and the global positions of megalithic constructions, it is the conclusion of this author that the Giza pyramids are the driving force behind a global harmonic oscillator, the ancient Ayurvedic architectural science of synchronized consciousness. Archaeologists have studied the pyramids for over a century looking for the fabled Hall of Records, hoping to find a massive library of sacred texts. This research into the nonlinear psychoacoustics of the Giza Orion complex has revealed that the language of its builders is purely mathematical, that their mathematical records have been left all over the globe in monumental stone. Through fractal geometry, the Hall of Records is now being opened, and in it is revealed a global mathematical model of consciousness leading the way to a new understanding of the harmony of an advanced global Sanskrit mother culture that has become long since lost to the terror of history. 3.2 Giza Pyramid Alignment to the belt stars of the Orion constellation. The origin of the pyramid complex at Giza is the topic of much recent debate, yet the design mathematics and cultural symbolism used by the architects themselves must be taken as the final word. R. Bauval and A. Gilbert first described the pyramid's design as having been constructed in the triad star pattern of Orion's belt, composed of Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka, and will be referred to as the Orion Pyramids. This specific constellation symbolism has subsequently been identified in several other pyramid complexes in various continents of the world, confirming that the advanced monument-building culture was a global one that preceded dynastic Egypt by millennia. The orientation of the Orion's belt stars with the Milky Way has been represented on the Giza Plateau in the relationship of the triad of pyramids to the Nile River, to the east. The Sphinx sits observing across the river the sunrise in the east, after a night watch of the ecliptic plane. The iconography of the Sphinx is calendar-related, as the human-feline symbolism signifies the constellation and precessional age of Leo, which last rose on the ecliptic horizon circa 12,500 BP. The combined stellar markers encoded in the layout of the Giza complex, supported by stone weathering pattern data, unmistakably demonstrates an astoundingly early. 3.3. Giza, Egypt's Sphinx monument shows Sanskrit origins, with a headdress designed with the Kundalini Cobra hood construction date, more than doubling earlier estimates erroneously based on dynastic Egypt as the culture of origin. The work of R. Schock, for Bovel and G. Hancock 5 have provided further support for the redating of the Sphinx by thoroughly documenting the weathering patterns apparent on its limestone surfaces. While flooding has produced horizontal waterwear along the lower neck and body, vertical waterwear striping is still preserved on the head and upper portions of the Sphinx. This vertical weathering is the result of consistent long-term rainfall, which last fell regularly in the age of Leo before the Sahara Desert was even formed. This striking conclusion forces a dramatic reevaluation of the cultural origins of the pyramids, informed by a renewed awareness of the biorhythmic effects of resonant stone chambers and the underlying relationships between the giant dimensions of the buildings and the long wavelengths of infrasound comprising the Earth's resonant frequencies. The drastic climate change that occurred during the end of the precessional age of Leo was likely brought about by a catastrophic event that ended the Ice Age, causing global temperature and sea level rise, turning the fertile Pleistocene North African grasslands into the arid Sahara of the Holocene. The Nile's course also reflected this change, shifting its main tributary to its present north-south course, which was a lesser tributary during the early Holocene. The ancient location of the Nile watercourse extended approximately 50 miles to the west, the remnants of which exist as a series of oases extending roughly from northwest to southeast. Ancient megalithic stone buildings have been discovered near the ancient course of the Nile, clearly drawing water through stone aqueduct systems from the vanished westerly source and the opposite direction from the present course of the Nile. The style of stonework of these ancient building complexes, as well as the Giza Plateau's Wall of the Crow, is very reminiscent of the stonework of Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman in Peru, with colossal stonework including both complex polygonal and perfectly planed rectangular blocks. In addition, the Pleistocene sites along the previous course of the Nile lacked the presence of hieroglyphic inscriptions typical of later Egyptian sites. The use of water as metaphor for the reflective quality of the universe is also a hallmark of ancient Andean belief, a reference to self-similarity. The work of C. Dunn 6 and S. Miller 7 in consulting the indigenous wisdom in the Giza area has revealed knowledge of the existence of an ancient lake surrounding the Sphinx and pyramids, dug out from the same massive limestone bedrock. Lake Hathor, as it is known, was filled by the very rains that wore the Sphinx's feline features. The symbolism of the lake water's reflection of the cosmos reinforces the monument's design layout in mirroring the three stars of Orion's belt. A former marine engineer, J. Cadman, has hypothesized that the unfinished but well-worn stonework of the Great Pyramid's subterranean chamber was the result of functioning as a sophisticated cavitating water pump system. Cadman has designed and built a functioning pump based on the geometry of the subterranean chamber, with its pit and channels that lead to an intake in the original lakebed. The hydraulic pump sent the force of tons of water into the confined space, leaving the rough-hewn surfaces oddly smooth and worn, including the uneven ceiling. Cadman's conclusion is that the subterranean chamber was designed as a periodic pulse generator that once echoed deep in the bedrock, the long duration of its functioning attested by waterwear. The uneven dimensions of this lowest chamber create a range of frequencies when stimulated by the periodic cavitation, with subharmonics likely falling into the range of inaudible infrasound measured as Schumann resonance. The electroacoustic theory of planetary resonance was developed by Serbian-American Nikola Tesla and identified by German physicist W. Schumann in 1952. Referred to as Schumann resonance, the Earth emanates a set of fluctuating ultra-low frequency standing waves that can be measured at varying levels around the world. The physical structure of the standing wave resonances has not been previously detailed, a process made difficult by their constant fluctuation. Earth's planetary resonance is generally thought to find its origin in the electromagnetic pulses produced by lightning resonating in the atmosphere. The hypothesis underlying the structural theory of magnetic resonance given herein is that the Earth is resonating in sympathy with the Sun, the planet's piezoelectric stone, magma, and core, transducing the solar electron storms into a deep hum. Schumann resonance is generally inaudible to humans, being comprised of a fluctuating set of infrasound wavelengths between 0 to 50 Hz. Earth's current base frequency fluctuates near 7.8 Hz and progress in frequency steps of approximately 5.9 Hz, extending to 50 Hz. The base resonance fluctuates irregularly between 7 and 8.5 Hz. To calculate the shifting set of resonances using the base frequency of 7.30 Hz, the 5.9 Hz progression of resonances follows: 1.4, 7.3, 11, 8, 19.1, 25, 30.9, 36.8, 42.7, and 48.6. The inversion of this linear number series shows a reflective quality shared by another intriguing number series explored by Leonardo Fibonacci. While Earth's resonance is expressed in a linear progression of frequencies, the acoustic wave structures of planetary resonance are described by the nonlinear progression reflecting the golden ratio. The golden ratio is based on the transcendental number phi, or O, a universal constant approximated by 1.6180339887498. Phi can also be defined by the equations, and the golden ratio is 1.618. Also known as the Fibonacci ratio, this divine proportion is expressed in the Fibonacci sequence, a series of whole integers beginning with 1 and increasing by the order of phi. Fibonacci sequence 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, 233, 377, 610, 987, 1597, 2584, 4181. The relative lengths of a line segment divided using the Fibonacci proportion can be accurately described by any set of consecutive Fibonacci numbers. This unique feature of the Fibonacci sequence is observed throughout the universe in a vast multitude of biological and astrological structures. Fibonacci order governs countless aspects of natural growth processes. The proportions of anatomical features in the bodies of animals, insects, the branching of plant segments, and the symmetries of flower petals. Application of the Fibonacci proportion to the study of acoustic resonance and the relative distances between the ancient pyramid sites will be extensively discussed as the key to sacred geometry. Quantum fractal describes calcite refraction, and the structure of the electron Fibonacci order is displayed by quadratic equations that precisely reflect quantum structures observed. Modulo n is a seed formula from throughout the fabric of the cosmos. The quadratic function, Zn plus 1 equals Zn, which is rendered a complex fractal map identical to the crystallography of calcite mineral. The phi proportion sizes and distribution of concentric circles along the octagonal axis is identified as the square Fibonacci tiling, defined in the equations of Lipschitz. 10. This mesmerizing nonlinear octagonal tiling is observed not only in the refraction pattern of calcite, but is also reflected in the array of giant storm vortices turning the atmosphere of Jupiter, and even in the composition of atoms themselves. This fascinating quadratic quantum map also defines the structure of the electron, recorded for the first time in 2008. Researchers in Sweden have demonstrated an attosecond quantum stroboscope that releases individual electrons into the field of an infrared laser at exactly 1 electron per laser cycle. The resulting electron momentum distributions are recorded as a function of time delayed between the IR laser and the attosecond pulse train using a velocity map imaging spectrometer. This technique has enabled us to image the coherent electron scattering that takes place. 11. The newly developed stroboscope enabled the team to capture scattering images that form an oscillating animation of the electron. This detailed mapping of the electron structure is precisely encoded by a fact that has not been recognized until this writing. Further applications of the seed formula, Zn plus 1 equals Zn quantum stroboscope promised to reveal more of the subatomic structural framework generally thought to be composed of standing waves, and now seen for the first time in single electron scattering as Fibonacci-proportion concentric circles. This remarkable quantum map embodies the unit of electric charge, the crystallography of calcite, and the atmospheric resonance patterns seen on Jupiter. 3.5. Spherical projection of the iterated function defines the nonlinear structure of magnetic resonance. 3.6. Hubble telescope images from May of 2008 reveal nonlinear vortical alignments in the atmosphere of Jupiter. A spherical rendering of the quantum map has been generated to investigate the distribution pattern of the world's pyramids. This spherical model will be applied to Earth's geography to reveal the complex Fibonacci alignments of the world's network of pyramids, a theory of planetary infrasound that will be defined here as magnetic resonance. The inspiration to apply this quadratic formula on the planetary sphere originates with the identification of Fibonacci order underpinning Jupiter's array of swirling vortices that have become more dramatic in recent years. The size and distribution of standing storms reflects an identical nonlinear octagonal structure. Composite spherical projection rendered from Jaczyk's octagonal quantum iterated function system. Any two consecutive numbers in the Fibonacci series can be added to produce the next consecutive number. It is like a numerical hall of mirrors in which one direction reflects the infinitely small and the other reflects the infinitely large. This series can be very useful as the ratios of consecutive values are identical and can be manipulated to reveal Fibonacci proportions for any unit of measurement. Because the ratios between consecutive numbers in the sequence are identical, any set of consecutive numbers proportionately reflects the values of any other consecutive set from the series. The utility of this aspect of the Fibonacci series will be discussed in detail in the following chapter, as it allows the easy calculation of phi distances using any Fibonacci numbers set to define the unit used. The spherical structure of magnetic resonance is rendered by iteration of the quadratic function that is a four-dimensional equation closely related to the Mandelbrot set, perhaps the most famous Fibonacci-ordered fractal. Another corresponding octagonal Fibonacci tiling of the surface of a sphere has been derived through the algorithms of Jaczyk's octagonal quantum iterated function system 12. The QIFS are generated by the framework of event-enhanced quantum theory 13 developed by Jaczych and Blanchard to address how quantum events come into being to produce the complex branching involved in the many worlds interpretation of the universe. The main thrust of quantum measurement theory is to explain the mechanism by which potential properties of quantum systems become actual. At the present time, this is no longer an abstract or philosophical problem since it is now possible to carry out prolonged observations of individual quantum systems. These experiments provide us with time series data, and a complete theory must be able to explain the mechanism by which these time series are being generated. Moreover, it must be in position to simulate the process of events generation. 14 Jaczyk's nonlinear octagonal QIFS generates a quantum scattering pattern that is reflected throughout the complex systems of our universe. The QIFS describe the energetic structures of subatomic, molecular, planetary, solar, and galactic formations as quantum systems in resonant operation. On the planetary scale, this resonance pattern is observed in the atmospheric gyres of all the gas giants of our solar system, and on Earth defines the prime location and structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza and the distribution pattern alignment of all the ancient sacred sites of all kinds, worldwide. This complex hypothesis will be borne out by an analysis of the geopositions of a great number of sacred sites relative to Giza that conform to the octagonal QIFS. The octahedral symmetry of the crystalline calcite mineral that comprises the bulk of the Giza pyramid's mass is precisely copied by the architect's design as a truncated octahedron. Stimulation of the infrasound standing wave resonance is achieved by the cavitation pumping of the base chamber of the Great Pyramid at 1.45 Hz, corresponding to the monument's base wavelength of 756 that defines the structure's resonant frequency. The angular lattice of calcite is known for piezoelectric properties, allowing its function as a transducer. The piezoelectric effect involves the conversion of mechanical energy to an electrical field in various materials, including ceramics, limestone, granite, sandstone, and even plastics. For a piezoelectric crystal, if mechanical stresses are applied on two opposite faces, electrical charges appear on some other pair of faces. The vibration of acoustic waves is transduced by piezoelectric crystals into an electrical field created by the unified vibration of the whole piezoelectric mass. Mechanical force applied to a piezoelectric material causes a molecular structural deformation resulting in a rapid continual reversal of electrical polarity, a quality referred to as dielectric. Water, a major constituent of the human body and the Earth's oceans, is also a dielectric substance. Indeed, ocean processes produce the carbonates of limestone that are the most resonant and abundant of minerals of the planet's lithosphere, revealing the entangled nature of Earth resonance, water, and consciousness. The abundant limestone formations and ocean water covering the surface of the planet act as natural transducers of Schumann resonance, while the artificial geometries of the Giza pyramids have been specifically designed to focus the predominant north-south reverberation of planetary infrasound into the octopolar configuration defined here as magnetic resonance. While the geopositions of a multitude of other man-made limestone structures will be used to verify the hypothesis, the phi design and internal chambers of Giza's Orion pyramids will first be described geometrically and shown to conform to the standing wave resonance structure. Gug et al. Provide a basic mathematical model of spherical standing wave patterns showing Fibonacci-ordered concentric rings of focused acoustic energy. 15 This author's theory of magnetic resonance is a four-dimensional model of standing waves derived by spherical projection of the quadratic function and applied geographically as an ultra-low-frequency acoustic pressure distribution map. The congruence of magnetic resonance with the octagonal QIFS, the crystallography of calcite and electron scattering reveals the fundamental unified field invisibly binding together all scales of the cosmos. This geometric extrapolation of a spherical low-resonance structure will not only be supported by the aligned locations of ancient sacred sites, but also by the serial repetition of the octagonal symmetry among the cultural traditions maintained at those same sacred sites. Sacred symbolism is found throughout the world in endless geometric variation, expressed in ancient cultural traditions of body painting, tattoos, jewelry, rock paintings, textiles, ceramics, stoneworks, megaliths, pyramids, and geoglyphs. The cultural threads that bind together the tapestry of human knowledge find their unified origin in the most advanced technology of psychoacoustic consciousness that awaits renewed use by contemporary society. Despite being unused, the ancient global wireless infrasound network displays its profound purpose through simple geometric perfection. Giza Orion Pyramids Quadrupolar Phi Angle and Acoustic Pressure Distribution of Infrasound Standing Waves. The Phi ratio defines the angles of the world's largest pyramid complex. From the central vertical axis of each of the Giza Orion pyramids, the phi ratio is expressed in the four cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. The ratio of the apothem, or face slant height, to half a base side equals phi. The angles of the phi triangle are 51.850, 90, and 38.15. The limestone blocks of the Orion pyramids consist of mostly calcite mineral, possessing an octahedral structure. Each of the Giza pyramids is apparently designed as the top half of an octahedron, accurately reflecting the microcrystalline structure of calcite crystal on the monumental scale. The refraction of light through calcite crystals encoded by the quadratic equation informs the refraction pattern of infrasound wavelengths through the giant pyramids. The pyramid's limestone blocks contain crucial information regarding the construction methods of the pyramid builders. Research by J. Davidovits into ancient geopolymers has demonstrated through chemical X-ray analysis that the casing stones of the Giza pyramids are synthetic, being of lighter density than any quarried stone due to trapped air bubbles and consisting of 85 to 90% calcite with other exotic mineral constituents like opal CT, hydroxyapatite, and silicoaluminates. 16 CAT scans of the core stones of the Great Pyramid have revealed hairs deeply embedded in the matrix of the stone, another clue that the pyramid blocks were cast using liquid stone, though RC14 dating of hair samples contained in the stone have not been reported. This type of test could establish accurate construction dates for the stones, although the likelihood of later facade reconstruction is strong. Corroborating ancient evidence of the use of advanced geopolymers has been documented in Mesopotamia's synthetic basalts. Point 17. Cross-section of nonlinear standing waves and their acoustic pressure distribution pattern. Recent acoustic resonance experiments have illuminated a connection between the phi ratio and the nonlinear structure of standing acoustic waves. Cervenka, Bednarek, and Konicek 18 at the Czech Technical University in Prague have modeled the structure of nonlinear standing waves excited in a cylindrical resonator. Driven by periodic oscillations, a resonant cavity can be stimulated to its fundamental resonant frequency, producing both harmonics and subharmonics. When the standing wave is driven into high amplitude, the nonlinear effects couple energy from low to high frequency modes. This increase in harmonics can create a shock wave, diminishing the quality of the resonator dramatically. Multi-frequency driving of the resonant cavity has been used to increase energy storing in the system. If the energy is coupled to lower frequencies, or subharmonics, less acoustic dissipation is observed, allowing for a more efficient system. Bednarek describes resonant macrosonic synthesis, the interactions of acoustic waves at some fixed frequencies without the energy losses in the higher harmonics is of considerable interest in acoustics. Such interaction creates the possibility of direct transformation of coherent sound at the given frequency by sound of another frequency without an electromagnetic energy source. For a region of 3 modes with given angular frequencies, if the sum of 2 of them is equal to the remaining 1, the interactions of these modes can be obtained from the nonhomogeneous Berger's equation for nonlinear standing waves. Point 19. These findings inform an understanding of the 3-pyramid design of Orion as resonators of 3 base frequencies, thereby generating subharmonics to store vast amounts of energy in Earth's atmosphere. Nonlinear standing waves define the Great Pyramid's design function, and resonant chamber alignments. The phi ratio describes the relative proportions of the 3 frequencies used to stimulate the nonlinear standing wave, such that the sum of 2 of the wavelengths equals the third. Fibonacci order is also observed in the distribution of acoustic pressure of standing waves along the resonant cavity. This standing wave structure informs the phi geometry of the Orion pyramids, as revealed by the superimposition of the pattern onto a cross-section of the Great Pyramid taken along the north-south axis. The high-amplitude transduction of the piezoelectric limestone blocks of the pyramids generates a strong electromagnetic field around the structures. A trifrequency infrasound resonance continually generated in the base chamber of the Great Pyramid would take about 4 hours to circle globe and return to the pyramids, thereby generating standing waves after the initial buildup. Each face of the pyramid distributes the electric charge as it alternates between negative and positive. The base length dimension of the Great Pyramid informs the fundamental resonant tone created by the structure. Each base side has been roughly calculated at 765 foot, creating a fundamental frequency of 1.45 Hz when the pyramids are stimulated into high amplitude. The periodic pulsation of the pyramids at full operational capacity creates a Fibonacci standing wave resonance of subharmonics of the 756-foot wavelength bounded by the base of the pyramid. The angles of the standing waves exactly correspond to the slope of the pyramid's faces, showing the phi angle of 51.85. This psychoacoustic baseline frequency of 1.45 Hz has been shown to induce the trithalamic synchronization of the hypothalamus, pineal, and pituitary gland with the heartbeat. This frequency is also the lowest frequency of Schumann resonance, thus the function of the pyramids may indeed be to shift the fundamental frequency of the Earth down from its fluctuations near 7.3 Hz to the trithalamic frequency of 1.45 Hz. This pyramid heartbeat resonance network is recognized collectively as a solid-state global oscillator that functions in wavelengths of pure consciousness itself, and training the human mind through redistribution and focusing of the planetary infrasound fields. Indigenous cultures across the globe recognize the Earth as a sentient being in itself. Just as consciousness has a frequency that can be measured by the electroencephalogram, the frequencies of Schumann resonance can be understood as the vital pulse of Earth. The ancient wisdom passed on through the traditions of the Yaqui and Toltec cultures of present-day Mexico overtly describe the Earth's emanations and the corresponding alignment of the emanations of humans, 20 a natural process reported by scientists as the frequency following response. Modern quantum biology and nonlinear acoustics now possess the tools to comprehend the seemingly abstract concepts of indigenous cosmovision in quantified terms. The octagonal structure of Earth's field of consciousness is quantified in this work, the very shape of the collective consciousness to which sentient beings attune themselves. The Orion Pyramid's output likely induces a shift in the fundamental frequency of the Earth down to the lowest resonant frequency of 1.45 Hz, allowing a parallel shift in the capacity of human consciousness. Yaqui knowledge keepers precisely describe this shift in the alignment of the perception of man as an awareness of previously inaudible frequencies of infrasound. The portion of the emanations inside man's cocoon is in there only for awareness, and that awareness is matching that portion of the emanations with the same portion of emanations at large. They are called emanations at large because they are immense. Inside man's cocoon, the unknown is the emanations untouched by awareness. When the glow of awareness touches them, they become active and can be aligned with the corresponding emanations at large. Once that happens, the unknown is perceived and becomes the known. 21 The alignment process allows a heightened perception of otherwise inaudible infrasound, demonstrated by indigenous teachings as the key to understanding the unknown, phenomena that remain for the misaligned masses of humanity as paranormal events. Indigenous knowledge of environmental processes that enhance human sensory perception was employed through the psychoacoustic driving of the Earth's atmosphere to achieve the synchronous heartbeating of the entire human population in the network. This global entrainment pattern produced synchrony in the thought patterns of millions of human beings in collective trithalamic entrainment at 1.45 Hz. Synesthetic awareness induced by the infrasound network of enhanced consciousness is an activation of the Sanskrit third eye chakra at the center of the skull, being the pineal gland itself containing biomineralizations of calcite microcrystals. 22 The enhanced psychoacoustic conditions generated by the prime infrasound pyramids of Giza enabled the genetic changes that are observed in pharaohs of Egypt who appear to have reserved exclusive use of the pyramid's internal chambers. The pharaohs wore the headdress seen in the monumental sphinx that retains the ancient sacred symbols of the much older society that originally constructed the Orion pyramids. The cobra hood is a kundalini symbol well known from ancient Sanskrit traditions, while the third eye pyramid symbol originates from the same ancient source. The pre-Egyptian origin of these symbols will be demonstrated in further chapters in the context of archaic Sanskrit artifacts from all parts of the world, yet the bare walls of the interior chambers at Giza confirms the functionality of planar stone. The internal chambers of the Great Pyramid are constructed of huge rose granite blocks cut with precise right angles and perfectly planed faces, brought from the nearest granite quarry in Aswan directly to the south. The surface of the stone is covered in a thin glaze of quartz, the main constituent of granite, which is typical of a stone-cutting technique now known as thermal disaggregation. Ivan Watkins, professor of geosciences at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota, 23, has designed a solar-powered focusing and directing apparatus for cutting, shaping, and polishing, U.S. patent number 4,611,857 for the thermal disaggregation of stone. The lightweight unit is a parabolic reflector that focuses only a few hundred watts of light into a 2 mm point capable of melting granite at a 2 mm depth upon each slowly repeated pass. The notes of Garcilaso de la Vega have described the findings of the conquistadors upon arrival in the Andes, detailing the Incas' large gold-covered parabolic stone bowls over 10 in diameter which were destroyed and processed into ingots. Strong similarities exist between the polygonal stonemasonry of the Andes and the pre-Egyptian Giza region, specifically the common surface glazing of quartz and perfectly rendered complex geometries, suggesting an identical advanced technology was used in the complex stoneworks of both continents, capable of melting quartz at temperatures of over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. 3.11 Chamber and air shaft alignments of the Great Pyramid, and the 1:2 ratio of the upper chamber rose granite was used in the construction of the internal chambers for its highly resonant properties. The quartz matrix of the granite stones is like a hall of mirrors with billions of parallel faces reflecting energy. The effect of this encasement in granite is that the airspaces can be given harmonic dimensions to specify the wavelengths that will resonantly store acoustic energy in standing waves. The dimensions of the upper chamber reflect a 1:2 ratio, allowing 3 Fibonacci proportioned frequencies to form standing waves. Acoustics engineer J. Reed carried out cymatic experiments revealing the resonant frequency of the upper chamber to be 121 Hz. Resonance in the upper chamber's granite box was found at 117 Hz. 24. The interaction of these slightly offset resonant frequencies was most strongly felt while inside the granite box, creating a resounding beat frequency that closely matches the 145 Hz human heartbeat. Reed's subsequent research into human heartbeat rhythms revealed that the beats recorded in the granite box matched exactly those of newborn infants. As the heart rhythms of an individual change in the course of aging, an adult's heartbeat may be entrained through the acoustic beating of the granite box to imitate the measured heart rate of an infant. The Institute of HeartMath has shown a regulated heart rate to be crucial to the formation of coherent electromagnetic fields around the heart and to allow intentional relaxation of the DNA helix that is associated with positive emotions. The direct correlation between the stimulated beat frequencies of the granite box and a healthy infant heartbeat suggests the chamber's design purpose. As the effect is caused by the interactions of the slightly offset resonant frequencies of the upper chamber and the granite box, the dimensions of both have most likely been calibrated to the heartbeat of a healthy newborn. By design, the low human voice creates a resonance in the upper chamber that entrains a trithalamic heartbeat rhythm in newborn infants. The granite box may have been a natal bath, the water's surface rippling in beautiful cymatic wave patterns to be broken by the first breath of the newborn. The damaged corner of the granite box denies its ability to hold liquids, suggesting a purposeful destruction, as is the case with many other granite boxes discovered in looted pyramids. Rather than a tomb for the dead, it appears the upper chamber and granite box were designed and used as a nativity center for synchronizing the biorhythms of the mother and child during their physical separation after birth. The ratio of the dimensions of the upper chamber, 1:2, can also be considered a mathematical or acoustical symbolism for separation from 1:2 bodies. Physical evidence that the chambers were designed for this purpose was discovered during early 20th century investigations of the ascending shafts. A carved stone tool was found sealed in one of the ascending shafts of the mid-chamber. The artifact is interpreted to be a peshish kaf, used in ancient times to sever a newborn's umbilical cord in the physical act of severing the child from the mother. The ascending shafts are directly aligned to the geographic north and south poles, having been specifically designed as receivers of the lowest frequencies of infrasound at 0.5 Hz that align precisely to the shaft exits. The changes in angle of the oblong rectangular shafts are subtle and intriguing, affecting the propagation of sound in ways that are not yet understood. The location of the natal tool in the ascending shaft suggests a resonant function also related to the biorhythmic entrainment of a newborn infant. The dimensions of the 6-foot-long horizontal portion of the shafts are just the right size to be able to accommodate a small newborn lying down. It then seems likely that the shafts were designed to focus a resonance of ultra-low infrasound waves upon a newborn placed in the shaft's openings in the upper chamber. As there are two shafts ascending from both the upper chamber and the lower chamber, even twins could be accommodated in a natal entrainment ritual involving psychoacoustic resonance. The cranial augmentation observed of ancient Egyptian royalty may be a direct result of fetal gestation and natal biorhythmic entrainment at the Great Pyramid. The complete set of angles of the internal chambers and the pyramid entrance are clearly aligned to the nonlinear network of infrasound standing waves transduced through its finely planed crystalline stone masonry. A balanced, full-spectrum infrasound environment has been shown to stimulate both emotional relaxation and DNA helical structural relaxation, called denaturation. Acoustic research in Russia has demonstrated a non-local mode of DNA communication through an omnipresent field. 25. The interaction has been described as holographic and based on nonlinear coupling of DNA with electromagnetic fields, a topic to be expanded upon at the conclusion of this chapter. As the first months after birth are well known to be developmentally influential, perhaps exposure during and after birth to the full infrasonic range may increase DNA development, inducing synesthetic consciousness. While the Egyptians may not have built the pyramids, they certainly applied Kundalini techniques in using the psychoacoustic architecture. The cranial volumes of the pharaonic families were extraordinary, most notably that of Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and their children. Unusually elongated crania have been observed in statuary depictions of even the youngest children, leading to an assumption that it was a genetic trait. Perhaps, in light of the new acoustical data from the Great Pyramid's chambers, this assumption may be confirmed and understood to be a result of the infrasonic stimulation, the advanced art of genetic enhancement. The elongated skulls of the ruling families of ancient high civilizations may have been developed through gestational entrainment techniques under the Great Pyramid's magnetic umbrella. The stepped pyramid-building cultures of South America, which were contemporaries of the Egyptian culture, began their traditions approximately 5000 BP in Caral, Peru, and elsewhere, having constructed monumental temples throughout the Andean region. These cultures used a very similar visual symbolic language, metallurgy, and ritual tradition as those of dynastic Egypt, including the elegantly elongated skulls of their ruling classes. Perhaps the royal lineages of pyramid-building societies had access to the advanced psychoacoustic cranial augmentation chambers, while their subjects only imitated the divine appearance by the manual practice of cranial deformation using wooden boards. While cranial deformation is a worldwide cultural tradition, having been observed on every inhabited continent, there are no known living examples of symmetrically augmented crania displaying the dramatically increased brain volume, present only in those of high status in ancient cultures of 5000 BP. Skulls having been deformed through the imitative cultural traditions still practiced today display significant differences with those of royal status acoustically enhanced in ancient times. The blood vessel patterning on the interior cranial walls reveals the extent of unobstructed brain development. Deformed. 3.12. Andean elongated skull is identical to a granite portrait of Meritaten, one of the daughters of Queen Nefertiti. Skulls show the affects of growth-inhibiting internal pressure on the developing brain, which results in asymmetry, incomplete knitting of the sutures between the cranial bones, and aberrant blood vessel formation. These are common characteristics of hydrocephalic skulls, caused by the detrimental internal pressure of excess fluid in the developing skull. These well-known characteristics of deformation are absent in many skulls that have been excavated in Egypt, Mesoamerica, and the Andes, thought to be individuals of royal status. A distinct similarity is apparent when one compares both the elegant cranial elongation and the decorative headdress style of the royal families of Egypt and the Andes. Further evidence supporting the notion of shared cultural traditions between the ancient Egyptian and Andean ruling classes are the high levels of Andean tobacco and cocaine found in Egyptian mummies, overwhelming demonstrated by hair shaft sampling of hundreds of ancient mummies and a comprehensive survey by toxicologists. 26. Drug trafficking is direct evidence of significant intercontinental transport, suggesting that the symmetrically elongated skulls of the royal lineages of the Andes may also have been achieved through psychoacoustic nativity practices and resonant stone chambers, as in Egypt. Reed also performed cymatic experiments by stretching a plastic membrane over the upper chamber's granite box to act as a vibrating platform. Upon the membrane, fine quartz sand was sifted evenly. As an oscillator in the granite box below the membrane produced a steady tone, the induced vibration of the membrane separated the sand into troughs and piles, revealing the structure of the standing waves created. Incredibly, Reed's photographs of the patterns formed on the membrane through the stimulation of various frequencies bore an uncanny resemblance to several Egyptian hieroglyphic inscriptions. The interrelationship of human consciousness, psychoacoustics, and language is becoming clearer through the study of acoustic resonance and the cymatic patterns that are formed by standing waves. Orion's Belt constellation symbolism of the pyramids at Giza, Montevecchia, Teotihuacan, and Xi'an. The most repeated symbolism observed in ancient pyramid design is the three-star belt of the Orion constellation, presented in the layouts of pyramid sites at Giza, Egypt, Montevecchia, Italy, Teotihuacan, Mexico, Xi'an, China, as well as in the temples of Borobudur, Indonesia. This pattern is not only symbolic of stellar alignments, but also displays fractal self-similarity in the octahedral form being repeated at 3 different sizes. The overwhelmingly synchronous information encoded in the ancient sites and cultural traditions in alignment all over the globe is understood as the fabled Hall of Records, having successfully transmitted the hidden legacy of humanity to which we are all awakening. Recent research in Russia led by quantum biologists Gariev and Papanin has thoroughly described the DNA phantom effect, 27, which is in essence a residue of consciousness. By using periodic laser pulses, the researchers have observed luminal alignment to DNA in a vacuum, which remains for even weeks after the DNA has been removed from the chamber. The conclusion has been that the luminal alignment is the DNA exciting a previously unrecognized non-local energy field, to which the bounds of three-dimensional spacetime do not apply. Their central conclusions from explorations of the vibratory behavior of DNA, living chromosomes function just like a holographic computer using endogenous DNA laser radiation. 28. The research has led to new acoustic devices which can actually transmit patterns of DNA from one stand to another, allowing the scientists to even transform a frog embryo into a salamander embryo using only sound. All of the problems encountered in gene sequencing have been overcome, while the limits of the new technologies are not yet known. The newly discovered communications of DNA provide the quantitative measurements that reveal the links between Earth resonance and DNA states in nonlinear acoustics. Dr. Papanin states his own understanding of the newly revealed quantum connections that would be integral to a unified field theory. These experimental data provide us not only quantitative data concerning the coupling constant between the DNA phantom field and the electromagnetic field of the laser light, but also provides qualitative and quantitative information about the nonlinear dynamics of the phantom DNA fields. Note that both types of data are crucial for the development of a new unified nonlinear quantum field theory, which must include the physical theory of consciousness and should be based on a precise quantitative background. 29 Quantum physics and nonlinear acoustics now can be applied to understand the dramatic changes that are now occurring in human consciousness, global weather, and geologic activity as related to the magnetic polar reversal already in progress. The new orientation of the geographic and magnetic poles will reflect a new alignment of planetary resonance and a new consciousness as DNA responds. The phenomenon of synesthesia, the cross-wiring of the senses where one can smell a color and see a sound, may be a manifestation of increased perceptual ability spreading through the population of humanity in response to the changes occurring in the acoustic environment. A comprehensive study of the population distribution patterns of living individuals with synesthesia will reveal congruence between measurements of infrasound resonance and the corresponding effects of enhanced consciousness. Ancient indigenous cosmology provides a model of human consciousness as cyclical, that humanity was once an interplanetary being that has now been entangled in the physical world. The Mayan Tzolk'in calendar's 2012 completion may be considered a link to the knowledge of the ancient Sanskrit mother culture whose legacy of four-dimensional mathematics still echoes through stone today. Mayan and Inca prophecy foretell of the close of this grand cycle and the return of Earth to a higher resonance that will be maintained throughout the next grand cycle to come. The precessional calendar is estimated at 2,150 years per age for each of the 12 signs of the zodiac as we now enter Aquarius. One complete precessional cycle is 25,812 precessional cycles, completes a grand precessional cycle of 309,605 years. In genetic research, this time period of around 300,000 BP has also become significant as the last common denominator for all modern human ancestry. While four-dimensional physics aims to comprehend the Earth's field of consciousness, the deep mystery of human origins seated in our genes remains veiled. The records kept in our genes may be the best evidence to look for cyclical alterations in genetic expression that may be the result of changes in the state of the planet's magnetic field. Perhaps the ultimate question of human origins is the very one answered by the repeated temple design of Orion's belt. The Orion star system itself may be the indigenous home of the cosmic civilizations from which humanity on Earth descends. The notion that fluctuating planetary energy levels are reflected in the consciousness of man is found throughout ancient cultures, often associated with water. Water's ability to store geometric energy patterns has been likened to memory, and indeed the pyramid-building Maya culture teaches a duality between terrestrial waters of forgetfulness and celestial waters that strive to remember. The sacred calendars of the Maya describe the cycles of interaction between Earth and the other planets of the solar system as defining the duration of whole civilizations. This suggests there may be a connection between the resonance of various planets by their exchange of water. The legendary cataclysmic end of the Atlantean civilization is described all over the world as the Great Flood that raised water levels by hundreds of feet, flooding vast portions of the globe. Where would this water have come from? Mars, the Earth's nearest neighbor, shows evidence of liquid water once flowing on its surface, yet cannot be found today. Water samples held in rocks from Mars contain high levels of deuterium or heavy water, a low-resonance isotope of hydrogen with an extra neutron. Water on Earth contains trace amounts of deuterium at only 1/5 of the levels observed of the waters of Mars. It seems then quite likely that the ancient Great Flood was an inundation of Earth's atmosphere with deuterated water ice from Mars that left the red planet barren and dry and the blue planet contaminated. This may also inform the ancient association of Mars with war as a result of the negative influence of low-resonance water on human consciousness and physical aging, rather than being simply related to the planet's blood-like color. By contrast, antediluvian pyramid sites likely energized water to extract pure protium, the essential form of hydrogen. The pyramid culture is thus designed to use the crystalline memory of celestial waters to awaken human divinity at sacred temples like Teotihuacan, meaning site where man becomes God. The resonant frequency of the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan closely matches the 1.45 Hz heartbeat oscillation of the Great Pyramid due to its comparable base length of 740. Itzá Mayan elder Hunbat's Min describes the pyramids as generators of the brilliant light of heaven that imbues the human being with eternal life. Cosmic creator Hunab Ku guides the initiatic work of the Mayan elders at their sacred pyramids. Take care of the light that I leave within my temple. When you form the human being, teach him to venerate my house, for within it they will find the light they need for eternal life. Teach him also that if he should stray, due to his errors, vices, or ignorance, then I, Hunab Ku, will reclaim my beloved beings and take them to my temple of wisdom and nourish them again with my light which is in the heavens. Then, together, Tepu, Gugamats, and Hubkin will perform purification rituals using that brilliant light for the benefit of my beloved whom we created and molded, so they can live in the light of eternal wisdom. 30. The concept of a special life-giving light radiating inside pyramid chambers is also related in hieroglyphic texts inscribed on the interior walls of the pyramids of Saqqara, Egypt. Profound details of the luminal and acoustic effects of the Great Pyramid transducer in full operation have been recorded in stone. House bright and dark of heaven and earth, for the ships put together, Great Pyramid, house of the gods with pointed peak, for heaven to earth it is greatly equipped. House whose interior glows with a reddish light of heaven, pulsating a beam which reaches far and wide, its awesomeness touches the flesh. House of eternity, its foundations are stones, the water, its great circumference is set in the clay. House the rightness of whose howling the great ones who see in orbit bring down to rest. Mountain by which Utu ascends. Whose deep insides men cannot penetrate. 31. These enigmatic passages use such simple language to directly express the purpose of the pyramids, informing the reader that the interior glows with a reddish light of heaven, pulsating a beam which reaches far and wide, interconnecting pyramids in all parts of the world. Both the Egyptians and Maya describe this reddish light of heaven as suspending the aging process of the human being as it touches the flesh. The description of the narrow shafts within the pyramid as deep insides men cannot penetrate is likely a reference to being used in the psychoacoustic development of infants, being the perfect size to accommodate a newborn after water birthing processes. The text describes water as part of the foundation of the Great Pyramid stones, confirming the original presence of Lake Hathor surrounding the pyramids. The powering of aerial vehicles, solar ships, is also stated as part of the design function of the pyramids, whose howling was quieted by beings in Earth orbit. This is perhaps the most intriguing statement, confirming that the pyramids generated ultra-low frequency oscillations as well as a reddish beam of light when in operation, and that the Great Pyramid's operation was halted by extraterrestrial beings observing humanity from orbit. This intriguing extraterrestrial dimension of the Atlantean civilization will be further discussed in the broader context of various archaeological finds from around the globe that depict the extraterrestrial beings whose influence silences the Great Pyramid. The word pyramid itself is of Greek origin, based on the word pyros or fire, and meaning fire in the middle. Did hydrogen plasma derived from water once burn in the inner chambers of the world's pyramids? The recently rediscovered high-energy state of hydrogen has been reported by Dr. Randall Mills, who has developed the process that releases vast amounts of energy stored within the hydrogen atom itself. 32 Mills has defined the physics underlying this novel chemical reaction derived from water as hydrino-resonant transfer plasma that is generated in vacuum chamber reactors now being commercially marketed for power generation by his company Blacklight Power Incorporated. The Blacklight Power researchers have defined the atomic process by which hydrinoplasma forms. Hydrogen gas is produced by the electrolysis of water and is heated in a vacuum chamber with metal particles. The metals become vaporized and bombard the H atoms, causing them to shrink to 1/4 normal size in a chain reaction that generates hydrinoplasma. Potassium or various other elements are used to catalyze this implosive chemical reaction that releases vast amounts of energy in the form of ultraviolet and infrared light radiated by the shrinking of hydrogen atoms. This plasma reaction can occur in open air, but is more efficiently generated in a vacuum chamber. This resonant transfer process of hydrinoplasma vastly exceeds the energy output of combustion reactions and is fueled by the most abundant element in the universe. The explosion principle behind the combustion reaction is reversed in the hydrinoplasma reaction, based instead on the principle of implosion. Hydrinoplasma was an essential component of the resonant energy production of the world's pyramids. Having generated intense infrared and ultraviolet radiation within the vacuum chambers of acoustically charged piezoelectric monuments. Plasma has a resonant crystalline structure like calcite and quartz, enabling transduction of focused atmospheric infrasound into heat, light, and strong EM fields. A very similar application of this atomic reaction of hydrogen has been developed by Denny Klein, called HHO gas, and is now available as a plasma torch capable of sublimating any material. 33 Klein's 2-gas oxygen-hydrogen mixing process uses the same simple torch heads developed for the inferior oxygen-acetylene process, yet Klein's HO2000 generator burns water. The over 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures obtained by the combustion of oxyacetylene are far surpassed by the HHO plasma that produces a variable BTU energy output. Temperatures as high as 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit are generated when the HHO plasma comes into contact with metals like tungsten. Conversely, HHO plasma making contact with the open air generates temperatures of only 259 degrees Fahrenheit. Once again, the differing behavior of the two processes reflects the essential difference between the explosion principle of oxyacetylene and the implosion principle of hydrinoplasma. The utility of the implosion reaction far exceeds that of combustible gases, exhibiting an extremely high power density, low pressure, and stable nature that is both more efficient and significantly safer than normal combustible gases. The hydrinoplasma reaction produces intense infrared and ultraviolet light. Interestingly, the bandwidth of UV radiation produced is restricted to UVA, while the destructive UVB and UVC wavelengths are not observed. The UVA and IR radiation of HHO plasmas are completely safe for the eyes. 3.16 Klein demonstrates the cold HHO torch tip. 3.15 Hydrino-resonant transfer plasma developed by Blacklight Power. 3.17 Biophysicist receives a light healing from the God Light plasma beam device constructed by Troy Hurtubise. The first patents for an electrolyzer that produced the hydrogen-oxygen gas mixture were granted to William Rhodes in 1962. Early developments of water plasma torch technology used a mixture of monoatomic and diatomic hydrogen and oxygen as well as water vapor, a mixture referred to as Brown's gas after inventor Yul Brown, who patented his designs in 1974. The water torch developed by George Wiseman generates this type of mixture and has been available for purchase since 2001. 34 It wasn't until the work of Dr. Randall Mills that the physics of the implosive shrinking of atomic hydrogen to become a hydrino was explicitly identified as the source of the great energies released by the plasma. The hydrinoplasma reaction provides comprehensive insight into the ancient knowledge of the Maya and Egyptian cultures, whose descriptions of the plasma generation within the pyramids have bewildered historians without any knowledge of the high-energy states of the hydrogen atom. Statements from the deep past describing the pyramid's reddish interior glow as the light of heaven that grant eternal life are now comprehensible in the context of plasma physics. A beam of light whose awesomeness touches the flesh has been developed in the form of a healing device that projects resonant transfer plasma onto malignant parts of the human body. Canadian inventor Troy Hurtubise has constructed a prototype plasma beam healing device that he has named Godlight for its remarkable stimulation of cellular regeneration in living tissues, as verified by biophysicists from Germany and France who themselves have benefited from exposure to the regenerative plasma beam. 35 The regenerative effect of hydrinoplasma reveals the remarkable design function of the world's pyramids as energizing water to generate radiant HHO plasma within the interior chambers, suspending the aging processes of the human body and engendering holographic consciousness by psychoacoustic synchronization.